Freak, do you find that you're, guilty of making mindless commissions of error? And is it not especially disturbing if it happens to filter into your gambling? I mean, have you had that happen to you yet?
I got married.
Were you sincere when you said I do? That you thought this was going to last until death did you part? Or were you ready to kill her after 5 minutes
I
to make
sort
that
of,
happen?
I sort of thought that foolishly,
Yeah.
but things happen, and
How sure were you? I mean, is it just something you wanted to believe, or did you really believe that that was going to happen? Like Lubie with Game 6 in the Heat.
no, I mean, I obviously thought, when I got married, it was going to last. I wouldn't have got married if I didn't. It's like putting in a bet. You don't put a bet in, you think you're going to lose. Like, yeah, I thought I was going to lose.
People were on the under at my, especially this last marriage, which I think, the under players got crushed already.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
May as well open up with a song, huh? I mean, I got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, Lubie, I have the South Florida Sports Month of May. I guess you'd say, what could make us feel this way? Spolstra, da-na-na-na. Talking about Spolstra. They did it, Lubie. A lot of anxiety, man. This was Mel Brooks City, wasn't it? I thought we'd be singing the blues today. I don't know that I believe that. I guess I started to have a different notion about last night's game when I saw that the very last person in the world who was weighing in, some woman who was, making clothing in Guam. And, they went to the factory. They said, Celtics or Heat, Game 7. And she said, I'm all in with the C's. And you thought, wow, that's it. It's unanimous. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a unanimous decision. Judge Melvino Lathan scores the fight 120-108 Canelo. And you're like, what? Canelo? He's on his way to the hospital. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
It looks like Arturo Gatti after, 12 rounds with Mickey Ward. Unbelievable. I think those were 10-rounders, weren't they, Louis? 10-rounders.
All right.
Weren't really championship fights. They were fighting for nothing other than Blood and Guts Warrior of the Year. And that's kind of what the Miami Heat became last night. They go into Boston and absolutely annihilate the Boston Celtics. This after, what many people felt was one of the most catastrophic losses in Heat history. Put them on the brink. You don't want to be contesting, for place, your position in the all-time list of infamy in terms of sports, right? You don't want to be, reminding people of the Buckner play.
Oh, no.
Or Jackie Smith. or Chris Webber. Or the shoe standing up before the wire, the Kentucky Derby, for God's sake. It's Bill Shoemaker.
Yeah.
You don't make those kind of mistakes. But you don't want to be known for that kind of infamy. And 0-150. That was pretty imposing, man. And they were right there. As I've been saying, they had 1 foot in the finals and 1 foot in the grave in that Game 6. There wasn't a soul on earth. Besides, I started to believe they were probably going to win this thing when everybody weighed in. It was 100% unanimous. And then Charles Barkley leading the charge. As we were saying on Defo and 5, Barkley has to have a free pass, huh? How much do they fuel his account with? Does it even matter to him if he wins or loses? Because if he wins, they're just giving him money. And if he loses, they're probably saying, well, Charles, going to have to make another 7 commercials recommending 10-team parlays. Is that okay with you? How does Adam Silver sanction this, man? Silver's got no soul anymore either, huh? All of that nonsense there when they were trying to get rid of Donald Sterling. And you thought, wow, there's a guy, a man of action. Come on, Adam. What are we talking about here?
Please get the fuck out of here.
It's only a matter of time before we find out the coaches are betting. I mean, but anyway, all bets were off after, a lot of people, I don't know that too many people are really saying that it was all Tatum, getting hurt. He wasn't effective in the game. That's true. But the whole team sucked. I mean, they really did. Somebody had to be able to pick up the pace. He found a way to do it.
Jaylen Brown's an all-star, and he did nothing.
No, he was nothing special in this game. They couldn't make a shot. I mean, the old adage came back, the old Chinese proverb, huh? Can I do this with sort of an Asian accent? I don't know. He who makes shot win game.
Yeah.
32 of 82 from the field, and an atrocious. The 3-point shooting was 9 of 42 for Boston.
Oof.
You know what? Stan Van Gundy said this after they were like 1 for 13, and he said, you know what? At first he said, well, if you're 0 for 12, you're not going to win a game. If you don't make a single 3-point shot in this game, no matter how many you jack up there, you're not going to win a game. This was Chucker City. This was going to the park and watching some asshole that just keeps shooting the ball. And you're like, are you ever going to think about taking it inside? Do something. Try and back your man down, a couple of feet at least, and maybe shoot a jumper while you're falling away, something from like 17, 18 feet, please. Get a little closer to the basket. That would be, if I was Missoula, that's what I would have been telling the team there. But no, you pointed this out earlier this morning, Louie. They played well defensively, stepped it up a little bit there. They got in the way of a lot of passes, stole a lot of balls, and they put a little more than token pressure on the 3-point shooters who were horrible. Boston helped them out a great deal, but by also being like way off, man. I mean, it was like they had a gyroscope in the ball. It was unbelievable. And Miami's, shooting. I mean, one of the things, if you're going to be a role player and you're an outside shooter, like a Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin is a much better outside shooter than I ever could have imagined. I didn't see that in him, in say, the early part of the season, whatever. Didn't watch, him enough to think that he was going to be this type of reliable, consistent, and persistent scorer, and a guy that, and Boston didn't have this. I mean, none of their stars rose to the occasion, and regardless of what Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler were doing, every time Boston got within somewhat of a reachable number, like 7, Caleb Martin would just swish like a difficult 3. Or take it inside and make a layup. I mean, but did it very coolly. I mean, this was not some guy that was like, oh, well, he's undrafted. He's probably not going to be ready for the occasion. I mean, that was a polished professional performance that accounted for 26 and 10. Looks good in a box score, but looked even better if you were watching it play by play. It was a very, very strong performance.
And sorry to cut you off, and I'll let you go back to it.
No, it's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
9 of 9 on shots outside the paint. Caleb Martin, a guy who is sort of a shooter until this series, was 9 of 9 yesterday.
Man, did he wake up? Yeah,
outside the paint, because it wasn't just threes too. That's the other thing, is he was actually hitting jumpers. He was getting in the he saved their ass. I mean, and look, Jimmy Butler, I expect him to turn around and hand that trophy to Caleb Martin, because he was not himself for most of the series. Outside of game 2, Jimmy Butler was not himself, and Bam was not himself the entire series. Caleb Martin was great every game. Every game, he was the one guy they could count on, and it was astounding to watch.
Well, where Bam Adebayo tends to get lost when he's having a poor performance, I mean, and is a non-factor, even to the point where, most people would look at that Derek White play in game 6 and say, that was clearly a mistake by Bam Adebayo. He goes out to the free throw line to box out like Marcus Smart or something.
It was Jaylen Brown. It was
and meanwhile, I mean, all you had to do was be under the basket. And we referenced that earlier when Greg Popovich, Hall of Fame coach, I mean, considered to be, you're talking about some long fabled coaching lines in the NBA. I mean, going all the way back to before even Red Auerbach, right? You've had plenty of coaches that you consider to be great. Popovich is at the very top of the list on most people's, top, 5-10 coaches all time in the NBA. Popovich is what? Certainly in the top 5 anywhere.
Yeah, I would say top 3. I mean, those people's 3 or 4 would be Auerbach, Jackson, Riley, Pop.
But how stupid was it that he had Tim Duncan on the bench when he needed a rebound? Because I guess he had taken him out of the game, for the possession on the offensive end, which also you would think was questionable. And then he's not in there when you need 1 rebound. Chris Bosh, 1 rebound in the entire series, and he happened to tip the ball in the corner there and get it to Ray Allen, who has probably, if you think about it, if you had the Tom Umansky tape of how to shoot a basketball.
Best form.
Probably the most perfect form on a jumper I've ever seen. I mean, he looks like Luganis going into the water off the Acapulco Cliffs with no splash.
His form is the form you teach. There's lots of great shooters, and they all have solid.
Perfect form. Yeah, perfect.
He has the form you would teach your child. Look, shoot like that.
I mean, there are a lot of great shooters, and sometimes you look at the rotation on the ball. But I mean, if you combine everything, including the like perfect posture with which he goes
Yep,
up,
yep.
shoots the ball at the apex of his jump, always is squared to the basket. I mean, perfectly. The shoulders are lined up. It's everything that you want in a fundamentals tape. But I mean, that was pure luck, and it only came about because Greg Popovich decided to get cute and play around a little bit. Now this game and the game 6. I don't know. Do you want to go back that far?
We can.
I guess we should because that was the thing that put the Heat on the precipice of doing something that nobody has ever done. A total disgrace, in spite of the fact. I mean, how can Cinderella end up disgraced?
That's the thing is,
This was like telling Ron DeSantis that Cinderella was actually a transgender, and he's been reading these fairy tales to his children his whole life. Ron, we got you, babe. No, that would be appropriate, I guess, today. But I mean, you couldn't have fucked up a Cinderella story any more than this. Than to go down as the one team that blew a 3-0 lead.
That's the thing is, I told myself the whole time, the whole Celtics series until 3-0, I was like, it's gravy. They shouldn't be here. It's gravy. They shouldn't be here. And then once I got up 3-0, we're up 9 in the third quarter. I'm like, okay, they're the favorite now. Like now, all that goes away. And it's true. Like if they had somehow played game 7 the way most of us thought they would have played, the 8 shit wouldn't have mattered. You were up 3-0. Like that's all that would have mattered at that point. I'm sorry. Even I would have had to say that.
Well, and it was interesting all the way through because as you said, the Heat had no business being here. I mean, that's the other. What a wild pair of sports stories are being written right here in South Florida, right in our midst. Good time to be a South Florida sports fan, and all of a sudden there's like a zillion of them. They're in the streets now. They're banging pots and pans in Hialeah, and all the way down Cutler Bay. The Keys, they woke those guys up. They're like, whoa, man, hey, well, basketball, great.
You notice in a game-clinching game to go to the finals with 4.5 minutes left, which is a lot of time. Look, the Heat came back with 4 minutes left in game 6. That the Boston Celtics fan were streaming out of the arena because I was told only bad Heat fan and Miami fans leave early. You don't leave early in a game.
Don't you stay for the salutation? I don't care what the traffic is.
No, but I'm saying you never know. The Heat came back in 3:45. They came back from 10 down. Can't the Celtics make a magical run down 19 with 4.5?
No, that wasn't happening. I mean, you can
no,
see
it wasn't.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, all I've heard from our Northeastern brothers that
you really want to give it to this Schwartz cat?
Well, it was a load of garbage. He did the exact same thing the Heat fan would have done. The exact same thing, because that's what fans do when your team's done. You know it, and you leave. Why wouldn't you?
Here's my thought on that. I mean, obviously, people were going back to work today. I don't know if you could afford tickets to be at Game 7, Boston, the TD Garden there or whatever that is. You probably don't need to go to work on Tuesday. Maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe there was the guy that saved up all of his money to get playoff tickets, and his dream was to, touch a statue of Larry Bird and, get in there and see all of the trophies and the banners and wanted to be a part of this, these kind of festivities. But don't you stay? I respect the Dallas Stars fans for what they did last night because they stayed and they were down 6-0. I mean, there would have been plenty of reason to just say, hey, you know what? I don't know we got our money's worth tonight, but, that was it. The series is over. Let's beat the traffic and get out of here. But they stayed for the salutation. Shouldn't you not salute your team, win or lose, when they get that far? The Boston Celtics. I kind of, as a fan base say, hey, we were solidly behind you. We thought you guys were great, but, we'll get them next year, whatever. But would that not be more appropriate for fans than to just say, hey, fuck you, Tatum?
Especially actually
on their way out the door.
Right. They did make it to the finals. They did come down from 3-0. They made
wasn't like they had a shitty season. Yeah.
They made a game 7. You're actually correct. If you're such a great fan base, and South Florida fans are so unknowledgeable and ignorant and they're just the worst fans. Wouldn't you stay to give your team a standing ovation because you were down 3-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals and they fought back tooth and nail? If you're such great fans. Yeah,
and they didn't have it last night. I mean, that's all. They came up lame. They had done it several times in the postseason. And we were saying this, even before the postseason got underway about Boston. I mean, they appeared to be very vulnerable. They did manage to somehow survive the 76ers series, only due to the fact that James Harden is a magician and manages to find a way to disappear right in front of everybody's eyes.
Well, no, it was actually very similar to what happened with the Heat. Harden and Embiid were useless
Yeah.
in Game 7. The difference is Tyrese Maxey, who is overall, especially going into these playoffs, a much better player than Martin. No one knew who the fuck Martin was. Maxey was a borderline all-star. Maxey did not do in Game 7 what Caleb Martin did. The Heat's tertiary players who are not as heralded as the Sixers were vastly better and lifted up their 2 stars, whereas the Sixers did not. And the Celtics coasted, where in this game, the Heat coasted.
Well, and Andy mentioned this earlier when we were doing our Defo and 5 there on 5 Reasons Sports Network, which, by the way, Scoop Skolnick going to join us about 7:30 today. Nobody more inside the Miami Heat than the Scoop of 5 Reasons Sports Network, and, of course, covered the Heat for many, many years. As much insight. I think he lives there. I really do. He has a picture of his daughter on Pat Riley's lap. It's amazing. I don't know that he doesn't just camp out there at the Kezar Stadium there, or whatever it is, Kaseya Center. Did they get their money's worth? I mean, they're going to be hosting NBA final games.
Amazing.
Whatever they paid for that. I mean, it's got to be worth its weight in gold, no, to have Kevin Harlan screaming about. No, I guess Harlan won't be on this.
Thank God it'll be ABC.
People love Harlan, though. They fell in love with this guy.
My problem, and it's so funny, people have now turned on Reggie Miller. I actually used to like Reggie Miller. Until last night, my issue is it was so Boston-centric, even though he were up 3-0. Like Van Gundy, Miller, Harlan's the play-by-play guy.
Everybody loved Boston. That lady in Guam in the sweatshop. She loved it.
It was just got annoying.
Celtics in 7, she said.
You're calling a game. Like, if anyone can be unbiased, it should be the people on the call. And I like Stan Van Gundy, but his Boston Celtic suckage.
Oh no, he was blowing them. I mean,
rough. Like, it was really.
I'm
rough.
surprised. I don't want to get too graphic on this, but the chief. You put the rest of that together with Van Gundy. I mean, he had his lips around it. I mean, it was unbelievable. Come on, Stan. We love Stan Van Gundy. I told you, I feel like I was an early discoverer of Stan Van Gundy's brilliance as a broadcaster. When I used to have him, I mean, the guy used to schlep over to WIOD on the 79th Street Causeway on a Sunday morning and sit in with me from I think I was on from maybe 6 to 10 in the morning.
On a Sunday?
On a Sunday morning, believe it or not, you could do AM radio 6 to 10 in the morning and have a pretty vast audience back in that time.
Crazy. Wow.
This was probably circa, late 80s, early 90s. And Stan would come in, and I thought, wow, this guy's brilliant. He could talk about anything. He was a big baseball fan.
He's a baseball fan, yeah.
And, he obviously knew his baskets. He was maybe 4 deep in terms of, being away from the big chair there as an assistant with the Heat. He was a relatively obscure assistant. And I thought, wow, the guy's great. But that's why it's even more outrageous. You think because they forced him to say that ridiculousness about wanting to go to Disney World? Speaking of Ron DeSantis, nobody quits their dream job to take their 14-year-old to Disney World. In the middle of you finally got there to this spot where you can't lose, man. You've got LeBron James, right?
Yeah. He coached that team.
Oh, it was Shaq. Yeah, Shaq.
He had Shaq.
Yeah.
It's Shaq because they had just lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to a Pistons team that they were about to close out. Like, Wade had no shoulder, and Shaq was dominating Ben Wallace. Right. And they went away from him late in the game, and a lot of that was Van Gundy, and that's what pissed off Shaq.
Shaq was pissed, yeah. Plus, he probably said, hey, Shaq, I mean, you could use a couple of salads. And Shaq probably fired back something along the lines of, you don't look so good yourself. But nobody, I mean, we've talked about this many times, the bogus press conferences that take place here. I mean, in Florida, they would expect you to believe anything. And especially, in the world of sports. And we referenced the main ones, which were atrocities. One of which was, and Pat Riley behind this. Can you believe this? Pat Riley, a speaker of truth, seer of things that go beyond the scope of even the most wise of men. And he's trying to tell you that, Stan wants to spend more time with his family. Oh, yeah. And for a rare time, you really wanted to just belt out in the back there if you were at that press conference. Fuck you, Pat. And I love Pat Riley, man. I mean, Pat Riley is on the All Elliott Ness team with us. He's one of the untouchables.
Yes.
I mean, you can't say. And look at the man; he's in the background there, just thinking, stick it up your ass. What is Danny Ainge? Is he with Utah now? Danny Ainge.
Yeah. They're a disaster.
Okay, so he's gone. So I mean, it probably wasn't quite as delicious as Mike Mayo diving into a meal there, another freebie over at the Catherine. Right? I'll have the possum a la mode, please. Yeah, we have that there. No, I don't know. They make like weird dishes, man, but they're all great. Right?
Elevated dishes, yes, but I don't know possum. I don't think possum or squirrels on.
No, I was thinking of my time there at Cleveland, where possum was on the menu as a delicacy.
Maybe
it was market price. Depends how many they hit on the way into the track.
Oh my god.
Anyway, a delightful evening all the way around. Everybody turned out to be wrong.
Yes.
They were only like plus 220 or something on the money line, even though they were getting 7.5 points. Very generous.
Yeah, that's
my
weird.
friend had a parlay involving Jimmy Butler being over 28 and a hook. And guess
oh
where he
no, yeah, I thought it was 27 and a hook. I ended up going off at 28 and a hook.
That's what he had. He was at the Borgata.
No. Didn't he score 28 exactly? Yes.
28, yeah, right on the button. And then the game's a blowout. I mean, the last thing you need. You want them going to the stripe for one shot from the foul line. Please, God.
See, I thought it was over 27.
These gods of gambling, man. I mean, they are something. It's amazing how, it's taken over the entire universe. It really has. Oh. It's sad. As we were saying, man, I mean, Adam Silver, what a sellout, huh?
Oh, please.
He could care less. He throws that Scott Foster crew out there.
I love that. That was great.
Don't they see what everybody else sees? That like the Celtics were like 37-0 when these guys refereed, and the Heat were like 0-92.
Because of the way the game went, you couldn't, as a Heat fan, you couldn't complain about the refs because he were leading most of the game.
No, it didn't really matter. I mean, it was a blowout.
It didn't matter, but you get the Heat didn't shoot their first free throws until 4 minutes left in the second quarter. Yeah. Jimmy Butler, who was going to the basket, he wasn't making it, but he was going to the basket as much as Derek White was. Derek White had gone to the free throw line 4 times in the first fucking half. Jimmy Butler wasn't being less aggressive than Derek White. Jimmy Butler didn't take his first free throw attempts till the end of the third quarter.
I mean, they could have assigned Tim Donaghy to the game, and it would have seemed more on a level from the NBA standpoint.
They tried, brother.
They were desperate, and you know what? They were probably today spending a lot of time already, even though it's not even 8 o'clock in the morning, apologizing to their, sponsors. That the Celtics are not in the final against a very, very relatively. I mean, I guess you can't be very relatively unknown, but a relatively unknown Denver team. Because people have no idea what to expect from this Denver team. On the East Coast, we are blind to what the Denver Nuggets are doing so far. They were the best team in the West all year long. I don't know what the West was, Lubie. Do you?
That's the problem is, yes, the Lakers, in theory, it feels like both those teams were better than both the Eastern teams. But the reality to me is, were they? I guess Austin Reeves would have his moments, but that doesn't mean he's any better than any of the Heat or Celtics role players. D'Angelo Russell was nowhere to be found in the conference finals. The Jared Vanderbilt kid was fine, but like all their guys that they were counting on that helped out a lot weren't better than the Heat or Celtics role players. So to me, the assumption that the Lakers were better, if Anthony Davis and LeBron are scoring 40, yes. But Anthony Davis outside of one game didn't do that, and he doesn't. So to me, the Lakers were I don't know what to do with them. I know you.
They should have never let Alex Caruso go. He was the catalyst in that team, man.
Look, and then again, the Suns throw in Durant, and it was great when they were playing well together. But then when they were off, it just looked weird. And Paul was hurt, and then the Clippers with their injuries. The West was where they have a lot of talent, but all their teams were just
better big men. I mean, all the way around. I guess you have Embiid, but I mean, when you factor in Davis and Jokic. And, you have to throw an Antetokounmpo out of the East. But, I mean, the efficiency with which they run their offense, the Denver Nuggets, it's actually entertaining, almost like Golden State was, not quite to that level a few years back when Golden State was just moving the basketball and you were looking at like poetry in motion there and you're thinking, my God, this is the way they drew it up. Naismith, where are you? This is the way to play the game. And, they have a little bit of that. And then the weirdness is Jokic just doesn't look – he looks like a goofball out there.
Yes.
Like if you put Tyson Fury in basketball shorts.
He doesn't move.
You wouldn't expect him to be able to do this stuff, but just like with Fury, I mean, you're like, wait a minute, this guy can box a little bit.
Yes.
Unbelievable. All right, so a lot of fun. All right, we're going to come back. We'll get some real insight into what's going on and then look ahead to the championship series, which we now have a couple of days to mull over, as that gets underway Thursday. So that's not so bad. The hockey.
Why is the hockey still Saturday? Like, they ended their series Sunday. Like, they want to give the Vegas Knights some time. Like, that's a load of garbage. Knights.
No, it's changed. If Vegas had won the series in the previous game, if they hadn't lost at home to the Stars and carried it to a game 6, then the series would have started Wednesday. But when that didn't happen, then I guess they had, for whatever reason, whatever commitments there were, they had to change it back to Saturday.
That's
So they were going to expedite it if that had closed out in 5 games, as many people anticipated.
Like, the Panthers did their job. They swept the team, and both teams are going to get a ton of time off. Like, that's the only thing.
They're happy, though. I mean, I saw something with the clips. I mean, they would paint a rosy picture no matter what, right? Paul Maurice could be face down in the gutter on, Sunrise Boulevard, and they would still say, well, you know what? It really looks good for us either way, right? We're happy to have the rest. We'll see. I mean, that series, I don't know what to make of the matchup. I really don't. It's hard to say, well, this team has an edge over the other. I would think from a momentum standpoint, the Panthers have been great, but Vegas, they were brilliant last night, man. I mean, they took it to the Stars early in the game. Within 5 minutes, it was like 3-0. It was incredible.
I just think the layoffs actually too long for the Panthers. Like, when did the Panthers finish? Wednesday? I don't even remember when they fucking finished.
No, they last played in 2021.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
it's amazing.
But a key cog in this is Bobrovsky being hot. I don't want to be that far away from fucking game action.
No, keep them away from the bagels and cream cheese. Yeah. Plenty of carrots, Sergey. Good for your eyesight. Eat a lot of oysters, whatever. We want them to be able to block a puck with anything.
Exactly.
No, good. I mean, good energy on that Vegas team last night. They did. They came right out of the box and took it to Dallas. I mean, they took the crowd right out of the game. Those guys were stunned, man, in Dallas. It was just a total annihilation right from the start, and kept the pressure on. So they never let them back into it. Seemed like a very similar team as the Florida Panthers, the way they kind of skate around. I don't know. The goaltending is about the same in the series.
Eichel, who's like a legit star who was from another team that is really getting his stride there. Same thing like Kachuk.
Oh, Eichel, yeah, but I don't think he had a goal. He might have had one last night during the part I didn't see, but he didn't have a goal in that last series. But a lot of shots and a lot of opportunities. Nothing like that Aho guy, man, from Carolina. Wow.
He tried.
It turned out he had like 15 point blank shots there. Somebody was tracking this in that series against the Panthers and never scored. How odd was that? Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Similar numbers, though, with the Panthers in Vegas. I'm not sure, what you could read into this. The Panthers score a little bit more than the Vegas Golden Knights do, 3.5 goals per game to 3.25. Goals against, that's where Vegas is outstanding. 2.61 they give up versus the Panthers 3.05, but the Panthers are a little bit of a different team now because all of a sudden Bobrovsky got his eyesight back. And the save percentage is a little higher for Vegas. Home ice hasn't meant much, almost nothing. And we'll see, man. Who wins the championship? Which one of those teams or both?
Look, I would pick the Nuggets, but again, it's not going to be as overwhelming as everyone says. Look, the Nuggets are 3-1 favorites, and I think they continue to disrespect the Heat, and I'm happy.
4-1. You have to leave 400 to win 100.
I saw 3-1 yesterday. That's amazing.
Well, you get 3-1 on the Heat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what it was. Okay. But again, I won't put it past the Heat. This is where they thrive, is when people are counting them out. So I'm glad that that's the case. The Panthers, to me, are the better team right now. They are the better team. Will they win? I don't know, because Vegas does a very similar thing where they hit the moment and they don't fall prey to it. But the Panthers did sweep their last opponent. They did.
I think they're being respected. I mean, the odds in the series, the Panthers are very slim margin in favor of Vegas.
Yeah,
very slim.
I would just lean Panthers. Of the two, yes, the Panthers have the better matchup. And again, the sport just leans to who the hell knows? It's hockey, like the bounce.
It's weird, yeah. I mean, it's abstract. It's one of those things where you're staring at a painting at the Museum of Modern Art and saying, "What the fuck is that?" I don't know, but I like it. Some guy tapes a banana to a blank canvas, and they sell it for $300,000 at Art Basel. Who still sounds like an old school goon out of the
100%.
yeah. Who's the guy now? Radko, is it Goody?
Good.
Yeah, I love that guy. He's fucking great, man.
He's the only.
He's like Moose Vasco to me. In the past, yeah. He's
Domi.
great.
He's like the definition of a throwback.
Well, Domi was a little guy though. This guy with the beard, very imposing. I mean, and he's just out there to beat the shit out of somebody. It's great. Once in a while, he like actually gets a stick on a puck, But otherwise, you're taking a beating with this guy out there on the ice. I don't know. I'm not sure that Vegas has that kind of guy. So maybe that's what the Panthers were talking about. This Bill Zito may go down as a genius of the year. He's a candidate for general manager of the year. Does he get it?
He should. I don't know what the
brilliant move. I mean, with this Kachuk guy, unreal. Best trade ever made in South Florida sports history. All right, the Scooper's coming up, man. He's right around the corner. Scoop Skolnick going to join us. And then later on, Grant Long will get deeper into this NBA series, Celtics and the Heat postscript. And, of course, looking ahead to the Denver Nuggets series, which Scoop will be in attendance there in Denver. So that'll be great. He's coming up in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 7:31. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine foods served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
Either right-handed or left-handed. Get down in there. Shirk off the defender.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on The Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show, the Defo Show here. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz, and just a couple of minutes here, or even less time than that. We'll be joined by Ethan Scoop Skolnick, 5 Reasons Sports Network, and it's going to be a quick hitter with Scoop, who is now in hot demand, as you might imagine.
He has his own show on 5 Reasons at 8 o'clock.
Well, can he ignore that to help us out with our show, or just a humble little show here?
He's joining us at some
beautiful. Okay.
minute or so. He'll be on for about 10 minutes or so, and then, we have Grant Long coming on at 8 ourselves. So.
Okay, all right. So we have plenty of coverage here on this fantastic turnabout in terms of universal thinking, where there wasn't a single person in the world. I mean, look, somebody had to believe that 7.5 points was a pretty generous allotment, no? What are these guys? Is Vegas just determined to go under? Are they going to bury the entire strip? Picking against the Miami Heat. Scoop Skolnick joins us, and I know you're pressed for time here, Ethan. We always appreciate you coming on the show, 5 Reasons Sports Network. And I would imagine, look, sometimes you roll the dice. This almost reminds me of the theme behind the movie Air, where you kind of, I don't know if you just evolved to this, by arbitrary means, or you intentionally wanted to focus on the Miami Heat with this 5 reasons thing. And now you couldn't be in a better spot, man. The whole 5
No
Reasons
sleep.
Sports Network nation must be lighting it up here. How are you, Scoop?
Well, you mentioned they're going to bury Vegas, which is for sure. And not only that, they can double bury Vegas because the Panthers can literally bury Vegas also. So
Wow.
the Heat are going to bury them from a betting standpoint, and maybe the Panthers from a hockey standpoint. They've already buried Boston, though. I'm not sure the city still exists. I don't.
They left in a hurry last night. Yeah, they really did. They exited that building like there was a bomb scare.
Well, they had to get out to January 6th. But yes, it's. I'll just say, look, I love that city actually when I'm there.
Yeah.
But the fans are the most annoying in the entire country, and for this area, which they don't respect at all, to eliminate their 2 winter teams in Game 7s on their floor or ice, when those series were leads for those other teams, whether it was 3-1 or 3-0.
Yes.
This may make up for the whole Brady era.
Okay. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Right. Like that didn't even happen. Belichick, Brady, Dolphins. I don't know anything about that between that and that lateral thing that the Dolphins did against them a few years ago. And also, by the way, the Dolphins did probably cost the Patriots a Super Bowl because remember they went up there and beat them, costing them home field advantage during the playoffs, which Kansas City ended up winning the Super Bowl in the stadium down here. It's pretty remarkable. I mean, I've slept about 30 minutes, and I got my own show coming up here in the 8:00 hour. But look, I mean, the script writers. Let's put it this way: the NBA and NHL script writers wouldn't have wanted to write it this way.
No.
With these 2 teams representing the Eastern Conference, and it's just we talked about in the last show I did with you. It's just they're completely parallel, like in every single way, from the attitudes of their stars to their coaches to the 8th seed to beating Boston. The Panthers to win the Stanley Cup will have to beat essentially 4 of the top 5 teams in the league. The only one they didn't get was Jersey.
Yeah.
And for the Heat to do it, they will have to beat 3 of the top teams in the league, 1, 2, 3, because actually Denver was tied with Philadelphia, I believe. Yep. So, and you're talking about Milwaukee and Boston. I mean, who cares about the Knicks at this point? But but basically, like, it is a completely parallel story. Both teams, essentially counted out, and both teams having listless regular seasons in which everybody wanted to trade everybody. And that's the thing about this. Like, there's so many moments from last night, and Caleb Martin, and I'm gonna make the rounds on that one because I called this. Not just that he would be a key player for this team when he signed last year, but also that he has the potential to be a star. And I think we're seeing
he looked great.
Wow.
but he was Jerry West last night.
He was
unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Celtics handled Jerry West. They could not handle Caleb Martin. But my favorite moment during the game last night, my favorite moment after the game was the embrace with Riley and Haslam. I thought that was tremendous. But my favorite moment during the game was Duncan Robinson basically turning into Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
With the wrestling pose, and again, to me that is symbolic of what this Heat team dealt with all year, where he was sort of the poster child for their mistakes, right? Like he was the poster.
He was a dead man walking. He really was.
The contract and everything else, and no role, and out of the rotation, and counted out. I mean, look, I never understand why fans pile on a guy for the money that he accepts that a team is willing to offer him because that's what the market will bear. I don't get it. And so everybody crushed him, and he was second on the team in 4th quarter points in this series, right behind Jimmy Butler, and was their most consistent shooter. And also he played, I thought, a tremendous game 6, and then missed the 2 open ones because he thought too much at the end, or else maybe they finish it. So I loved that for him. And you look at the rest of this team, and Gabe Vincent, who wasn't even a point guard when they got him, and now he's 19 out of the 25 starts in the playoffs.
Very efficient shooter too, much better shooter than you would have anticipated.
Absolutely, and then
he showed that against Poland, I guess was the last time.
Well, no, it wasn't just against Poland. That's the thing. It was against the U.S. It was against Jason Tatum's U.S. team.
Yeah, he showed he can really shoot efficiently, and you have to be able to finish those plays off. I did want to get into this a little bit because the Heat were on the precipice. We were saying that they had 1 foot in the finals, 1 foot in the grave.
Right.
They could have been up there with all of the infamous things. The Buckner play, Jackie Smith, Chris Webber with the timeout. My favorite, the shoe standing up before the wire to lose the Kentucky Derby. I mean, they would have been the one team out of 151 that lost in that spot. And we were saying you're having a Cinderella story going, and it would be like the way we put it earlier was telling Ron DeSantis after you've been reading Cinderella to his daughter that Cinderella was like transgender. And I mean, you can't have a bigger stench than to join all of these infamous people. Yes,
and not white Defo. That would bother DeSantis more.
Yeah.
I probably should get off that subject. Yes. Look. Here's the thing about it. Okay. Game 6s historically, in whether it's an MLB or NBA, I can't speak to NHL, but MLB have been the most memorable. Whether it's Fisk's home run, Ray Allen's shot, just go down the line, okay? Or the Buckner play, right?
Yep.
But it only matters if the Game 7 result is the same as the Game 6.
Yep.
Because like the Fisk home run, okay, but they lost Game 7 to the Reds in 75. But in 86, the Buckner played, but people forget like that Game 7, and I know because the Mets, that was my team. Okay, that was to me the most interesting team in MLB history. The 86 Mets.
How much blow was delivered to the clubhouse every night?
Could you imagine that team in the Twitter age?
Can you imagine if they were here in Miami, if we had a team and that was it? Are you kidding me with those guys in the 80s?
And here's the thing: it only mattered because in Game 7, the Mets rallied and won. Nobody remembers the Game 7. They just remember the Game 6. And even the same is true of the 13 finals with the Heat. Everybody remembers 6; they don't remember 7. But if you rewatch 7, it was actually a better played game. And Mario Chalmers hit enormous shots during that game that got forgotten. Chris Bosh went scoreless in Game 7, scoreless, but made key plays at the end of it. It only matters if you close 7, and Boston didn't close 7. So I don't. To me, it's a footnote. That is the footnote to history. Now it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It does. What Derek White did doesn't matter now. Max Strus not boxing out doesn't matter now. Like it's irrelevant to the entire conversation. Okay, great. So they became the 4th team to ever come back out of 150 from Game 6 to Game 7.
Yeah.
That's okay. But here's the thing.
First team to have a home game though for Game 7.
Right. And here's the other part of it. So you're going to complain about, or not you, but they're going to complain about what Tatum got hurt. Well, here's the thing about that. Okay. We kept saying, well, the Heat shouldn't let this series go, let it keep going because Jimmy's getting more tired or somebody's going to get hurt or whatever. Well, the Celtics let it go 7-2. Like the Celtics hadn't dropped the first 3, including the first 2 at home. The series doesn't go 7, right?
Yes.
So I don't have any sympathy for Jason Tatum spraining his ankle. And by the way, okay, it didn't even look that damn bad.
No.
All right, and it's just and to me, if you want to get into the difference between the two organizations and why an organization that has less talented players, if you want to argue that, keeps competing with or beating a team with more talented players, it's because everything with Boston is dramatic. It's just dramatic. Maybe it's the media. I'm not sure what it is. And with the Heat, it's like it's just like all fucker walk. Okay, like it's just we have enough. Okay. We're not going to hear it. Spo he will not tolerate, even on the side. Okay, I've tried over the years. He will not tolerate excuses. He just does not. Like, it's just like, okay, Depot's gone. Hero's gone. Jimmy's on his last legs at this point. Okay, well, they didn't get me a player in the off season. PJ Tucker left. We have enough. That's the mindset. I do think in moments like that matters. That helps the team shake off what happened in Game 6. Whereas Boston went in there thinking we did the job already. Like, we got it back here. And I honestly think they just, to a certain degree, relaxed. And when that beginning of that game where Miami started a little bit shaky, but Boston couldn't make a shot.
Yep.
I was like, okay, wait a second. And then you look up and there were 3 minutes left in the first quarter and Boston had 13 points. And
what bricks, too. I mean, these were monumental boulders. It was unbelievable how bad they shot the ball.
They were. And I just think when you look at the way that the Heat played from the start, again, and the moves that Spo made, we said he was holding one in his back pocket. It was Haywood Highsmith. We talked about, why wasn't he playing more? Because he clearly was an antidote for a lot of what Boston did defensively. Just give him short minutes. He held it for Game 7. The first half, he didn't go straight zone. He did some soft switching. Okay, they mixed up that defense. We still didn't see everything. But also the move to Caleb Martin, it's like, okay, everybody's like Spo's stubborn. He can be. But he didn't stay with Kevin Love the whole series. Okay, maybe one game too long. Sometimes it's one game too long with Eric. But eventually he went to the guy he should go to, and I think I said here on the show last week, it's got to be Caleb Martin starting eventually against this team when they go small, and that's what he did. And so I just think it's a monumental achievement for him. I look, first championship is always going to be significant, and what Dwayne did. The big 3 titles to me were more relief than anything else. It was just, oh my God, fine.
Thank goodness, yes.
Get off their backs, okay? Like they won, all right? Bron. And they were really about Bron and the people who follow Bron from around the country and all the rest of this. The bubble getting to the finals was an accomplishment, but nobody got to see it live like I did. And they sent me home because they call me a jinx and whatever. But to do this, I mean, to grind this thing out, like I said this last night. They had Giannis contemplating the meaning of failure.
Yes.
They've got Knicks fans wanting to trade half the roster. And now Jaylen Brown's probably not going back to Boston.
He's done.
Right. So Missoula's, coaching acumen comes into question.
So there's 2 coaches that Eric's getting fired here. And honestly, Tibbs was teetering for a little while. Okay. So he's not going to get the next coach fired. Next coach is not getting fired. And this is a totally different task. But this is kind of like, if you ever played Mike Tyson's Punch-Out,
sure,
and you start with Glass Joe.
Glass Joe is the only one I ever got by.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then there's a bunch of sort of racist stereotypes as you go forward in the game that nobody. Really
it was much more acceptable at the time.
Exactly. Like that's right. Like go back and look at that game and you'll be like,
yeah, it was a great game. I played a lot of it.
Kilt? Okay, like this. Yeah. Okay. So. That's what this is to me in a lot of ways. The Knicks were just out of order. Okay. But it's just, I mean, Milwaukee was a task. Boston, because of the history of it and everything else, was a task. And now to me, Denver, even though they didn't have a better record than those 2 teams, is a different kind of task that they're going to face. But honestly, I really think if you could say to Heat fans right now, are you satisfied? 99% would say yes. This is.
I don't know. They were out in the streets, man, in Hialeah last night. Did you catch that?
Well, they're always out.
Did you send a crew out there to cover some of this?
I did. We posted it on our Twitter account, and yes, we pots and pans, and not only that, but the basketball hoop on the truck was a nice touch.
Where did all of these people suddenly come from, though, Scoop? I mean, they were in the streets partying all over South Florida. It was crazy.
They had to wait for our post-game show to finish, and then they came out after that. Actually, I don't think they were watching our post-game show, but I know that many were. This is gravy at this point. Like this is gravy.
And again, nobody would expect them to beat Denver. They're 4-1 favorites. You have to lay 400 to win 100.
And now they got to go. Now they got to go out to the thin air. Okay.
And Denver's playing great. We said they're kind of like not quite what Golden State was when they had that perfect symmetry and every element you would want, and it was just a pleasure to watch every possession. But close. I mean, they have spurts where they just look great. It's entertaining. It's one of those things where you're saying, geez, there are some fundamentals in this game that actually matter.
Well, they remind me. You mentioned the Warriors, but also there's a lot of Spurs principles there. And if you look at kind of the late Big Three era Spurs teams that the Heat went against, there are similarities there to this team. They're very well coached.
Yeah.
They have a unicorn player who I think I'm glad he's getting the stage, because anybody who says that guy's not entertaining basketball is out of their freaking minds, because
it's great. It's like watching Butterbean Esh with like playing pool basketball or something. I mean, they're looking at this guy going, "How the fuck is he doing it?"
It is really remarkable. It's like it's against any scouting thing that you would ever talk about. And
I mean, like, he doesn't even get off the ground. I mean, he's shooting over Anthony Davis, who's like not even applying token pressure, is all over the kid.
And then you have a guy in Jamal Murray who's one of the smoothest guards in the league.
This guy's been great,
and a clutch player. And then Michael Porter Jr.
couple of tough guys.
Was the number one high school player in the country at one point.
He looks serious too about the game. He looks very serious.
And Aaron Gordon, miscast as a 1 or a 2 in Orlando, but as a number 4, he's not bad. And then you add in Bruce Brown from Miami, who I love.
Right.
He's a Heat type player. And then KCP, who we saw him in the finals against the Heat 3 years ago.
Sharp. You're right.
Yeah. So you look at their top 6 is really good. Jeff Green is a reliable vet that
How old is he? Is he 100 yet?
Well, they called him Uncle when he was 21. So he's been around so long. He was like a young vet on the Thunder teams with Durant. That's how far back he goes.
Jeff Green, wow.
But he's been very
out of Georgetown, right? Wasn't he a big John Thompson guy?
Yeah, he was.
Thompson was still alive when he broke into the NBA.
Yeah, he was. But he's been very effective. And then so they've been they're really good. I mean, there's no question they're really good. They've been overlooked. They have a lot of the same gripes with the media that the Heat would. They tend to vocalize it a little bit more than Miami does. But I don't give a damn if people are not entertained by this series. To me, this series is about the Heat have to get this thing in the mud. Yeah. They've got to get it in the mud against this team. They cannot let them play free. They're going to have to keep the scores, in the 90s or low 100s, something around those lines. They need Jimmy to get a little rest. Obviously, going into the altitude is not ideal. I can tell you, I covered probably 11 games in that building on road trips.
And you couldn't breathe?
Not only could I not breathe, I don't remember them winning one. They might have won one. It was always the game. The NBA would always make it the last game of a 5-game West Coast swing.
Yes.
On the second night of a back-to-back coming in from LA. And it was like, and it was always the game where I'd see Dwayne the night before after the game, and I'd be like, "You're not playing tomorrow, are you?" F no. And then that was always where Mike Miller or James Jones was playing for Dwayne Wade, because Dwayne was not going to play. So look, it's a huge task, but they just got to get one out there. They got to find a way to steal one. And I don't think that they can be embarrassed by anything that happens at this stage after what they've accomplished.
Can't be discounted. I know you got to run, Scoop. We appreciate your time. We went into a little OT there. See if you can push. If you see Pat Riley on the plane on the way out there, I know you're going out there to cover the game. The altitude simulators that we were hawking through this public company we represent called Altitude International. I mean, I think it would be behoove them to buy one now and get ready, right? Or did they go? I guess they go straight there, right?
Yeah, well, they went straight there, and it's Denver, so everybody's going to be high on something, air or something else.
Yes. I mean, and a dangerous place for an NBA player. You're wondering how the Nuggets function at all. I mean,
especially now that they don't test. That's
what's the test for? How happy a guy is, yeah,
right. Exactly, yeah. They don't even need that for this stage. It's going to be fun. I'm heading out to games 1 and 2. We'll have
nice.
I'll be out there. Another guy from our network that lives out there at Mateo Mayorga, so he'll be with me, and then we'll have Brady Hawk and Alex Toledo with me at the home game. So
you're a maniac, Scoop. Unbelievable.
So we'll see, and the Panthers too. I might swing over to Vegas. Who knows?
Honestly,
we would like to swing over to Vegas. That's our dream, is to somehow score credentials and have one of our fine sponsors ante up the cash that we need to get out there.
That sounds like a good idea. Do you know any? Because it
has to include some gambling capital. I used to work with a bunch of guys that understood that fully. They were like, "Okay, you say you need $1,500 for us for expenses, but here's $3,500 because I know you're going to blow 2 times before you get out of the airport."
And his name, Jeff DeForest, was not Steve Lappa. Anyway, I gotta go.
Okay, Scoop. Thanks, man. Pleasure. Ethan Scoop Skolnick. ladies and gentlemen. Off and catch him on 5 Reasons, man. The guy goes into great detail, does he not?
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, speaking of detail, I mean, this guy's always great too. He saw Boston winning the series, though. That's right. He saw the Boston Celtics winning the championship. Yeah.
He predicted Celtics Lakers at the beginning of both conference finals. Before the Heat got a lead, before the Nuggets got a lead, he predicted Lakers Celtics, like an old school finals.
Almost as if he had gotten his selections from Charles Barkley.
I was like, Barkley
at that point. How much leniency do you think they give Barkley? I mean, what if he owes FanDuel more than he's making from TNT? Because I think this. I mean, we know this to be true of degenerate gamblers, having been in various financial positions during the time that unfortunately I was addicted with what many people would consider to be a very hideous habit. Is it a bad habit? No, it makes it fun. It does. Big Rich, I lived vicariously through him last night as he was just stumbling through the sports book at the Borgata, making parlay after parlay, in-game, out-of-game, post-game. How many times would, so-and-so mention the Celtics blew it besides, ever giving the, without ever giving the Heat credit for doing what they did, which was, hang in there. You would have thought these guys were a bunch of bag ladies, Lubie.
Look, the reality
into the postseason, no chance against the Milwaukee Bucks. Knicks, I thought the Heat actually had the edge in that series, which they did, clearly.
The Bucks was the only one I really thought, again, but remember why we thought that. If they were playing the Bucks now, we wouldn't have thought that. We thought that because they had just come off losing to the Hawks and
the stinking Hawks
left to the Bulls in the second playing game. That's why we felt that. It wasn't because they were the number 1 seed Heat from last year or the Heat that are playing now. It was because they looked abysmal going into the playoffs. So, and the Bucks looked great going into the playoffs. So how could you think anything else?
And look at the overwhelmingly favorable opinion people had of the Celtics. It's true. You were the one guy, Lubie. I'll give you a lot of credit, man. You were the Proud Boys of this line of thinking. That the Heat were no worse. And I do remember, you were the subject of unlimited ridicule from any number of experts where you would chime in with that, and they would immediately go, whoa, wait a minute, Lubie. What, are you out of your mind?
I don't know what they were watching.
But, when you look at what happened with the Celtics in the postseason, and I think if you analyze their, last 25 games or so, you probably see this pattern beginning to develop where, they would just literally vanish at times. They lost 2 games to the Hawks, all right, in the first series. Philadelphia, which, was a mystery team, ended up firing their coach.
Yep.
And they did hire Nick Nurse.
Yeah.
So, even though, and I think Nurse leveraged the Milwaukee job against the 76ers.
The Suns job.
Possibly.
It was the Suns job. He picked the over the Suns.
All right, because, he was supposedly one of the last guys that they were mentioning as a possibility to replace Budenholzer with the Bucks. And, the Bucks wouldn't be a bad spot to be in, would it? Would they not? After what you saw happen with the Celtics, who, as Scoop was suggesting, Jaylen Brown probably gone, regardless of how you thought that dynamic, was damaging before the season started, that they seemed to be playing in pretty good symmetry, no? Jaylen Brown and Tatum. But, Tatum was ineffective in that game. Marcus Smart. Bricks. Lubie, did they have to call out Brick at some point? At what point in an NBA game when you've hoisted any number of bricks do you have to just actually start shouting, Brick?
Well, Boston does this thing, and they did that in that game that the other game the Heat dominated, where when there's still time to come back, they start chucking threes. Because I'm telling you, they didn't miss as many threes as you're saying they did. What happened was
they missed their first 9 attempts.
They weren't great early, and they weren't great late. In the
Did
middle,
they miss their first 12 attempts, I believe. They were 1 for 13 when they finally made one.
Hit some threes.
Horford hit one, and that was it. Horford, think about that.
Was early. They hit some threes. It was late. They did that in game 3 too, where it was like they were within 15, and it's not over. So you would think, okay,
they didn't have much going to the basket. Occasionally they actually hit it like a drive or one of those floaters in the lane that I despise. But other than that, they were lobbing them up there too. Remember we were talking about this when you shoot the ball without conviction. You have to believe every shot's going in. You can't just hoist it.
That's
when you were watching the Heat, their concentration level on these shots was radically different. they seem to be shooting the ball with a lot of confidence. Whereas,
Yes.
and I guess that's easy to say when you see the results are already posted. But no, I mean, if you're watching the sort of body language of the shooters, weren't the Celtics just lobbing them up there like
Yes.
almost as if it was a prayer, even
Well,
with
that's
wide
what I'm
open
saying.
shots,
A lot of those threes
aiming shots? I mean, it just seemed to be out of it.
that made that percentage look as bad as it was at the end. Like the Celtics did that in game 3, they did it yesterday, where like when they got down in the fourth quarter, instead of doing what the Heat did, fighting back, getting in the basket, getting free throws, trying to get steals, they just would go down and chuck up really bad early threes.
And you're hoping it goes in. That's
yeah,
it.
exactly. But it's like you didn't need to do that. And
No, and it's a brick off the back rim and comes out to the free throw line and ignites a fast break the other way where you're outmanned. Your guys don't even have time to turn around, and all of a sudden the ball's at the basket.
Yeah, that's the Heat. That allowed
Holy Goran Dragic. What an
easy.
analysis. Yeah.
With 6 to 8 minutes left, if the Celtics had smarter possessions, that game could have gone down to the wire. The problem is the Celtics just gave away possessions late, and that allowed the Heat to really win easy. That fourth quarter was a fucking breeze. I mean,
will the Joker be the MVP of the final series? I mean, my first instinct, I'm sorry to say this, is like Denver in 5.
I think Denver.
So there I go underestimating Miami again. Right after this big thrilling victory, this huge buildup, the euphoria, the parades in the streets, and here I am going Denver in 5, you asshole.
Yeah, look, like, but
what?
I hope they prove me wrong.
They just looked really good to me. I mean, maybe I'm missing something here.
Look, Mayo's predicting Nuggets sweep. The Heat have more heart than that. If they get swept,
but Mayo will turn on a team. I mean, he was all in on the Heat last night, and all of a sudden he's got them getting swept. I'm not sure about that.
I think they have more heart than that. And look, and maybe I'm wrong that I keep waiting for Butler and Bam to wake up. Maybe they're not going to. Maybe the injuries are just that serious that this is what we're getting from Butler and Bam. I don't know. I just feel like we're at the finals, and Butler felt that loss last year, and Butler felt that loss in the bubble, and Butler wants a goddamn ring, and he's here.
Do you think Pat Riley actually took the time to go out to the cemetery and spit on Red Auerbach's grave? Still my favorite title ever for a movie. I remember it was at it wasn't at the Peerless, it was at the Strand Theater in Brooklyn. And it was part of a triple header. My dad was thinking about going to see these movies, and the title was I Spit on Your Grave. Which is some concept. I mean, when you think about it, does it get any uglier than that? I mean, you spit in a guy's eye, that's one thing. You spit on his grave. Do you think Riley did that? I mean, because Danny Ainge is no longer with the Celtics.
I mean, he was, at the end of that game when it was like 20.
Didn't he look distinguished when he was down there on the sidelines? He looked rejuvenated.
Very much when he started walking down, and you could see the Celtics fans streaming, and he's walking down. There's still like 4 minutes left in a game 7 on their court when they had just won 3 in a row, and they won in the stupidest way ever. Derek White with an offensive
adjust his tie like Rodney Dangerfield.
Like he was just smiling, and I was
like, he looked better than he did when he got drafted by the San Diego Rockets. All right, Grant Long's coming up, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to that. We'll take you up until 9 o'clock today. Later on today, Mike Mayo's lunchbox, and wow, Mayo was eating up a storm. Did you get out there to Tommy T's? You did, huh?
Oh my God, Tommy! My wife.
How good was that?
We've eaten in France, we've eaten in New Orleans, we've eaten Italy, all over the place, and I've never seen her as happy as she was yesterday.
What'd you have? What'd you end up having?
Well, the boudin balls are great, and he doesn't always have those. We had never done a crawfish boil. Now I understand why people love them.
Yeah.
Well, especially because toms are so big.
No, they look like Maine lobsters. They really did.
You actually get meat out of that tail.
Yeah.
And you just buy it by the freaking pounds. Like, it was amazing. The po' boy, and I love po' boys, and we make our own, and my wife does a really good job with it.
Oh, yeah? Wow.
It's not, I mean, like, there's nothing like Tommy T.
No, Tommy T is very authentic. I mean, people are always asking, hey, where can you get authentic New Orleans food?
No, and
there aren't even that many places that attempt it here in South Florida. There's a few. And most people would name the Shuck and Dive as the go-to place, and it's very good. But I would have to say, and I've been to the Shuck and Dive, and I've been satisfied with what they do. There's definitely nothing wrong with it.
Oh, they do
but at the same time, Tommy T is like going to Bourbon Street without having to board a Spirit Airlines flight.
Yep.
Imagine that. He should say, I'm the anti-Spirit Airlines, Tommy T. You don't have to fly to New Orleans to feel like you're on Bourbon Street. Just try these red beans and rice. Unbelievable. Jambalaya, great, all of that stuff. All right, we're coming back. Mike Mayo, no doubt, have a breakdown on it because he also had, fried ribs there?
Oh my God, that was the craziest thing. Is I've never even thought to do a fried rib. I almost didn't understand what he was doing. He created his own mayo barbecue sauce, fried the rib, and
As in Mike Mayo barbecue sauce or mayonnaise?
Actual mayonnaise, I think. Tom T. And the fried rib was spectacular. And
Okay. That sounds interesting.
It was so good. Oh my God. It was like, what the fuck? Like that thing was
great. No, I'm glad he's at that place because a lot easier access for me, even though I didn't make it up there yesterday. But apparently the great Jim Sarney was there, and it was quite a gathering.
The lovely
Bonnie. Very nice.
It was great. It was really good.
Okay, all right. We're coming back with Grant Long. We got to get going here, and we'll have Grant joining us in just a few minutes, or so we hope, as we come back in a moment. Now that
the time
you got me thinking about food, though. It's 8:05.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Grant Long joins us here on the show. All right, in your days at Romulus, if a guy was chucking him from 40, would he get beat up after school? I mean, this is Michigan basketball now, Detroit basketball.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have to wait to after school.
Start your day with a cup of Defo. It's now time for the Defo Show.
It's Man of La Mancha time here on the program. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz, and it's always a pleasure to welcome our next guest to the show, and we love this guy. I don't know exactly what Heat culture consisted of when he was an original member of the Miami Heat. I think it consisted of, marveling at the fact that Pat Cummings was getting all of these gorgeous babes, on what was a relatively new South Beach. But we welcome to the program, now part of the Detroit Pistons broadcast team, the great Grant Long joins us here on the show. Grant, how are you, my friend?
I'm a lot better now, guys, and I know you are too. What a wonderful, wonderful evening we were all tuned in to last night. Man, we got treated to a heck of a game.
Yeah, we were saying the only thing that would have been better is if Pat Riley, had the satisfaction of knowing that Danny Ainge was still part of the franchise. But, I mean, he dusted himself off there, started straightening out the tie. I mean, like he was Red Auerbach lighting up a cigar in the old Boston Garden, with about 4 minutes to go in a game, finally conceding. But, there wasn't a person on the planet. I don't know how you felt about this Game 7, that after watching Boston somehow miraculously blow a lead and then come back and win Game 6 to send it back for a seventh game. We thought the Heat had a date with infamy, that they were going to go down with Chris Webber and Bill Buckner and Jackie Smith and all the others that had, had good careers or good seasons, whatever, and then what will only be remembered for what they did wrong.
Yeah, it sort of looked like that one, and you know what, would lean on Jimmy Butler because he said, listen, we're going to win Game 7. I know sometimes that's just a
it looked like a Patrick Ewing guarantee. Yeah.
but hey, it sure did. I did not foresee. I did not foresee a runaway win in a Game 7 like we saw last night. And I don't think anybody, the Boston Celtics certainly didn't think that it would come to a runaway on their home floor in a Game 7. You could ask for a better scenario if you're the Boston Celtics. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't to be. Come on, it was what was the thing? 0 and 150 or 0 and 149?
Yeah, 0 and 150.
So it just wasn't in the cards. wasn't going to happen for them last night. And more so, it had everything to do with the Heat and less to do with the Boston Celtics.
Well, look, Grant, and it's why I like having you on. We were just talking with Ethan Skolnick, who covers the Heat, and we talked a lot about Game 7 for the most part, and a little bit about the Nuggets. But I want to talk to you about Game 6 because you did play a long time in the league, so you face a lot of different situations. And to me, as a fan, I'm not in it, but I watched that ending to Game 6, and I'm like, you're already going to Game 7 in Boston after losing a 3-0 lead. And then you really lost twice in that game because it felt like early they had lost. Then they came back. They had the lead with 3 seconds, forced Marcus Smart, a bad shooter, into a horrendous shot. Like, as a team, that's what you want there. Game's over. You're going to the finals. And Derek White, of all people, gets a clean offensive rebound and a putback. To me, as we watch sports, usually the team that loses that game, it's done. Like, there's no way you're coming back, going on the road to win a Game 7. The fact that this Heat team played like that in Game 7, to me, boggles my mind. And I just ask you, as a guy who was in this league, how the heck can you overcome something like that? Because to me, as a fan, I couldn't overcome it. But these guys, Spo on down, it acted like the minute that game ended, they forgot about it, and all they focused on was Game 7. And you saw that. And it looked like the Celtics had sort of just assumed they'd win because they won that moment, and he sort of laughed in their face.
I think thought on that, Lubie, and that is you're touching on one of them. That can be so deflating if you lose a game like that, particularly a Game 6 when you know that's a closeout game for you, and now you have to go to that opponent's home floor, the one that just beat you in miraculous fashion, so to speak. That can be very deflating. You could almost, I wouldn't say give up, but it would be very hard to muster up the energy to go to someone's home floor where there's certainly some statistics that support that it's difficult to win that game. So it's more difficult to win that Game 7 on the road. But when you're the Miami Heat, when you're a team, I wouldn't even say the Miami Heat, when you are a team that has depending on your team concept, your culture all season long, and the guys that got you there, you depended on, you know that mentally these guys are going to be strong. You know that night it was very deflating, but they were going to pick themselves back up, dust themselves off, and be ready for a Game 7. Because here's the thing that they knew. If they could beat the Boston Celtics. It was a matter, Boston had won 2 games at that point. Now they won 3. But the Heat never felt like they did not have an opportunity or were not better than the Boston Celtics. And I think they had that in their back pocket, that no matter what happened, we are the better team. And I think that's why they pulled out Game 7. They understood that they were the better team. They just needed to play and cover all aspects of it, and that's what they did in Game 7.
I mean, you saw some, unfortunately, bad basketball with the Pistons this year, a lot of it. But have you ever seen so many bricks hoisted by one team as Boston last night? And at what point, we have that clip with you about the chucker. At what point do you just beat the crap out of the guy that's still shooting from 35 feet when he's 1 for 9?
You know what, and that's today's NBA. It really is, guys. And that I was sitting there and I was saying there were so many other. You almost need to designate a guy on your team. Okay, we are in a 3-point shooting league right now, but sometimes I think every team that is going to participate in this volume 3-point shooting, you should designate 1 or 2 guys that when the team is not shooting well from the 3-point line, these guys come in and take those drives to the basket and get those deuces, because those plays are just see so many guys drive the ball to the basket and kick it out for 3-point shots. You need to designate a couple of guys that are just in to make layups, because those are opportunities to score where the Boston Celtics continued to try to shoot the 3-point shot, and they were not effective at it. And they did not try another course of action. That's coaching to me, but that's also the players that are on the floor recognizing that that's not the avenue that we're going to impact the game with. The 3-point shot's not working tonight. Let's do something else. But they continue to try and knock down 3-point shots. And once you start to fall behind and you start to continue to miss, rather, that's going to be difficult to overcome. And we saw that last night.
I think Scott Hastings shot the threes with more conviction. I mean, it seemed like Boston was just lobbing them up there. And, it happens to players sometimes where even the pros, I would imagine, where you're just hoping it goes in. And, meanwhile, the Heat were razor sharp, especially this guy. We saw this evolution, Grant Long, through the playoffs. What we saw, signs of this during the regular season. which tended to be downgraded by Heat fans because the Heat weren't particularly sharp in the regular season and had some hideous losses towards the end when they really needed to come on to solidify a better spot in the playoffs and avoid the play-in. But people wouldn't have known Caleb Martin from Steve Martin before the finals. And this guy was great last night. And it was indicative of the kind of play that he's sort of, displayed, throughout. He could have easily been named the MVP of that final series. How did this come about, in your opinion? And what do you think? I mean, is this guy, just capitalizing on some good fortune at a big moment, or is he destined to be some kind of star in this league?
He will be a star. I think when you talk about a player seizing the opportunity and the moment, he certainly was able to do that. And obviously, there's 4 more games to win, but they don't win that game without his impact. And I said that all season long, all series long throughout this playoff, that's what makes the Miami Heat. It's not simply Jimmy Butler going out and being special every night. It's the fact that he empowers those other guys to do what they do. And if there's a moment that Jimmy needs to be special, then they can. Here's the biggest difference, and I'm not getting away from Caleb Martin, but here's the biggest difference in Jimmy Butler is that the Heat can win a game when Jimmy has 16 or 17 points. The Celtics in this series, they're not going to win, or rather the Celtics can lose even when their 2 superstars get 20-plus points each.
Yes.
If they get 30-plus points each, they can still lose. The Heat can win without Jimmy Butler getting 35 points. They can still win if he gets 17 or 18. And I think that proves the point that this is the team that everybody's empowered offensively. You're not going to just stop Jimmy Butler and slow the Miami Heat down.
I always love these kind of stories. Duncan Robinson gets a boatload of money by anybody's standard. Certainly, there are guys making whopping salaries now in the NBA that make that look like chump change. But still, it's like $50 million commitment or something to a guy. And it was, a long shot to even be in the league. He established himself as, a very accurate 3-point shooter, very valuable. People, frowned on his efforts at the defensive end. Seemed to be a little clumsy there. Almost, like who was it? Jaja Pagula, whatever.
Jaja Pachulia.
Pachulia coming out on Kawhi Leonard, kind of a zombie wandering around. Is buried. I mean, done out of the rotation. He doesn't even get off the bench. It was a DNP CD for a lot of the games this year, and then all of a sudden, at a moment of truth, he comes back. It would have been easy to sulk and hang your head. I guess the $50 million probably helped, ease the pain. But you don't see that often, where a guy is that deeply buried on an NBA roster, after having some success, and then comes back and becomes a valuable component of what now could be a championship run.
Well, don't you ever think that wasn't a calculated move. It wasn't one of those things from Eric Spoelstra where he said, I'm going to take a chance on Duncan Robinson. Believe me, he had been practicing and having some very good practices where the ball was going through the hoop. He looked back, or he looked to be in some type of rhythm during these practices. And that's what Coach Spoelstra said, you know what, I'm going to give him an opportunity tonight. It wasn't one of those, let me just draw straws here and let me put Duncan Robinson in the game. He had proven at that point, at somewhere along the line in practice during this season, that he was going to be an impact player, that he was going to be able to contribute to the game. And that's why Pope put him in the ball game. And certainly he came in and did what we come to expect from him, and that is shoot the ball and make shots. Yep, he had been falling off, wasn't accurate at some point during the season, but a lot of shooters are that way, just like batters go through their slump. So recognized something that was in him in this situation, gave him an opportunity, and he took complete advantage of it. And once again, and I've heard this before since LeBron James had left the Miami Heat, that it may be one of Coach Spoelstra's best coaching jobs. This certainly has to rank right up there.
Oh, no doubt.
Best coaching job.
I mean, they were dead in the water. They were losing to Chicago in the fourth quarter of the second play-in game. This is another bout that they, staved off infamy. They would have been the first team ever to, it was only a short period of time, 4 years, but the first team ever to not make the postseason after qualifying in the top 8. And, then they come back and beat Milwaukee handily, knock off the Knicks in what seemed to be more of an even matchup for them, and then beat the Celtics, who everybody in the world, we were saying, I think it was unanimous. I don't know where you stood on Game 7 last night, Grant Long, but going into the game, I mean, Lubie, he had a vial that contained, several cyanide caps. And he was gargling with like embalming fluid before the game, thinking the Heat were dead. They're getting 7.5 points from the bookies. Charles Barkley is screaming. I mean, that's another thing. You have some insight into the NBA. I don't know if you have any insight into this in particular, but is FanDuel just giving Barkley a free pass on all of his bets? Because he is trying to bury America with his picks. he was all over the Celtics, as was just about everybody thought that they were going to win that. All right. What chance in this matchup? I mean, we're watching Denver. They knocked off, and I'm not sure. You see more probably of the East than the West. With the Pistons, of course. They knock off the T-Wolves, the Suns, and the Lakers. And they do it very efficiently, 12-3 en route to this position here in the finals. Great offense to watch. I mean, fun. If you're an old school guy like me that likes seeing Bill Bradley coming off of picks and shooting jumpers, off a feed from the Pearl, you like watching this kind of offense play. It's not quite what Golden State's was years ago in terms of symmetry, but very entertaining and fundamental basketball. What chance do you give the Heat against the Denver Nuggets, who obviously have a big advantage there, playing in Denver and having potentially 4 of the 7 games there?
Well, the Denver Nuggets, their offense, we talked about Curry, who can keep going and keep 30 in a quarter, 40 in a game, and then have the support of Jokic. That's what's going to be the task for the Miami.
Did we lose Grant? There he is.
I think during.
Kind of have Grant going in and out here a little bit. Lubie, what do you think?
Now we got to go all we do here.
There you go. Should we try to reconnect? Yeah, let's try to reconnect.
I hear you now, but we can call you.
Okay, all right. All right, let's give it a shot. We'll call Grant Long back, see if we can get a better connection there. But always great insight from Grant Long. It's still stunning, to think about. I mean, how loud was that clanking all over the city of Boston from that array of bricks? Every shot that went up from the Celtics, you thought, my God, how far off can you possibly be at a game, that is as crucial as this, where, you should be holding all the cards. You got Grant back? Okay, very good. Grant, we're losing you there. I don't know if you went into one of those tunnels or anything, but we're glad to have you back. You were saying. We lost him again?
I was saying, guys.
There we go.
Hello, you there?
Yeah, we got you.
I was saying. Hello, guys.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay, good. Well, I was saying that you got to limit those big impact games, those big outbursts of scoring.
Yeah.
From the Joker. And if you recall, during the postseason, he had a 50-point game. He had a 40-point game, I believe. It's going to be difficult, but you've got to limit that type of explosive offense from this team. The other guys, and I'll go back to this original point. The Miami Heat have more guys who are accustomed to having 17, 18, 20-plus points in a game. Denver Nuggets have 2 guys, possibly 3, who can get you those big numbers. But the other guys, they're not accustomed to having a 19 or a 20-point outing. So this is where the Miami Heat, again, have another advantage that they have to spread the wealth offensively, let everybody impact the game and not rely on just 2 guys to have big numbers. Continue with this concept of playing team basketball, and I think they have an outstanding opportunity to win. It's going to be a lot determining on, coming up this first game, because I know the Miami Heat, they've got to be spent emotionally after playing that game 7, and now they have to travel to Denver and get ready to play. But if I know this team and I've watched them all season long, mentally they're going to be ready. They're going to be ready, and they understand how big this game could be if they could grab the first one. And it's going to be a huge game.
Well, and we've seen that work both ways, where the team that gets all the rest comes in with a little ring rust and
Yes,
plays a
yep.
lousy game one.
Yep.
We've seen the team that just was emotionally spent playing, a 7-game series where it looked like they were going to, stamp themselves, as we said, in an infamous category and become the first team out of 151 to blow a 3-game lead. Ending a Cinderella story in disaster. But we've seen that team come out and be razor sharp because they were just, coming out of being in rhythm and playing. So it'll be, obviously very interesting to see the way that transpires. Yeah, go ahead.
And another dynamic that we have to consider is that the Miami Heat is the lowest scoring team, maybe one of the lowest scoring teams in the NBA. So now you really put a lot of emphasis on your defense. If you're not going to score a lot of points, you got to put a lot of emphasis on your defense to really slow down Denver Nuggets, like I said, who could be a powerful offensive unit. So if the Heat are not going to score a bunch of points, boy, defense becomes a huge factor. And listen, we haven't said defense is a huge factor in the NBA in a long time since shooting took over. But in this series, defense is really going to be of paramount importance.
It's funny, there was an evening the other day, which was rare, since we've had all these playoff games in both hockey and in basketball. And now with 2 local teams going to the finals as 8th seeds, impossible to even conceive of. But I was watching, some episode on ESPN of The Last Dance, which, naturally everybody was fascinated with that whole thing, even if it was a little bit staged in Michael Jordan's favor, to make him look good. But, and he should look good, right? I mean, the guy was a great player and, obviously iconic sports figure. But the scores of those games were ridiculous. I mean, it was like, look at that. Chicago takes a 78-76 victory here. And, you're like, what? That's a halftime score now. I mean, the underplayers were getting absolutely, buried in recent NBA history. And, back then, that was a margin for error. So how would you defend? I mean, I know Jimmy Butler mastered it. And was he watching tapes of your days with the Miami Heat, Grant Long, the double head fake and double up fake? Jimmy's the master of that, but the Celtics seem to, actually, make a conscious effort to stay down on those in a couple of games when they made the comeback. And, it forced Butler to dish the ball off eventually, and he wasn't getting to the stripe as much. How do you defend Jimmy Butler if you're the Denver Nuggets? Is there somebody you would assign to him? Or, what kind of committee do you assemble there to try and keep him in check?
Well, I think certainly you have it's obvious that you have a primary defender, but you also have what I think you would have a rover or a secondary defender who is ready to come double team in the event that Jimmy gets hot. But that's the thing about Jimmy, that he goes along and plays the pace of the game where everybody else is impacted. Believe me, that's calculated on his part, that he doesn't want to get going too bad or get going too fast, because that means he's not going to be able to contribute. They're going to double team him. So he recognizes that the more his teammates can contribute, the better off it'll be for him to have open opportunities to go one-on-one with his opportunities. And I think that's why it's important early on throughout the series that everybody plays their game. Everybody takes their shots that are available. Don't turn down any shots. Be ready to be aggressive offensively, because that certainly helps Jimmy Butler. Now, if I'm the Denver Nuggets, like I said, I want to have someone in his face every time. And they believe me, they're taking notes to stay down on his pump fake. But that's difficult to do, especially when a guy who is doing the pump fake can make shots. It's different if it was like a guy that can't make shots. Yeah, you're going to stay down on the pump fake because you know he wants to get to the basket. Well, that's not the case with Jimmy. He can actually shoot. So he offers up a pump fake. Sometimes you might just go for it because the guy can shoot.
Yeah, I would be going for it every time. What are you talking about, Grant? I mean, it would look like spaghetti against this guy with those fakes. They're great. And we see that move used more and more where, almost everybody has the initial up fake, whether they're just going to stand there and chuck the three or not. All right, a prediction on the series. Unfortunately, we did remind people that you had the Lakers in Boston in the finals. What we also tended to be dead wrong all throughout the postseason. The only series I thought the Heat would win was that Knicks series, and especially after this devastating blow in Game 6, you thought, wow. I mean, they literally have, more than one foot in the grave there trying to go to Boston and close it out. So what do you think? What's going to happen? Denver versus Miami?
I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the Heat win the first game in Denver.
Wow.
And
all right.
I think they take the first game in Denver because they're playing with some momentum. I know they're dilapidated probably in their mental approach, but their psyche because they gave everything. They're drained mentally. But I think they take game one because they know the importance of it. Remember, a series is never over until a team wins a game on the road.
Sure.
And this is the game I believe that the Miami Heat they're coming in with some momentum. They're not coming in off of a loss. They're coming in off of a win, a big win where they won by double digits. I believe that's a huge
21
win.
points last night.
They're coming in full of confidence, and this is a game that they understand. Believe me, on that plane ride there, somebody mentioned, hey, we've got a lot of work ahead of us, guys. Celebrations starting tonight, but it's over tonight as well, and let's start getting our mind right to play Denver. So these guys are going to come into this game. I would not be surprised if Miami wins the first game.
All right, and Tyler Hero, possibility he comes back. I guess he might have been listed as questionable for last night's game. Did not play. Looking kind of funky with the floppy hat there on the sideline. Some Heat fans are saying, well, geez, hey, we're better off without this guy. I don't know that that's the case. I'm not really a subscriber to that theory, but, because – we've seen. I mean, Duncan Robinson maybe doesn't play any minutes. If Tyler Hero's there, because he was kind of maybe even the 7th, 8th guy under consideration. Last thing, I mean, what do you think Hero would mean if he came into the series?
I think it only adds to the offensive punch. You need another guy, especially with the Miami Heat. They are proven to be a good 3-point shooting team. Tyler Hero adds another dimension, another level to their 3-point shooting. If he can get going, if he's healthy enough to play and accurate enough when he shoots, that certainly helps and will impact the game.
All right, sounds good. Grant, thanks so much for your time. Always a pleasure, my friend. I hope to talk to you throughout. I don't know how long they stretch out the finals. I guess we got Thursday and Sunday.
That's 2 days every game, and then I think on the road they miss another. They stretch it out like 3 weeks. They don't mess around.
Well, my birthday is July 5th. I turned 72. Well, I see the end of the series by then. Maybe that'll be the day the Heat wrap it up at 7. But thanks so much. Always a pleasure, my friend. Hope to talk to you again real soon.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot. Grant Long, ladies and gentlemen. Some believers now in the Miami Heat. Grant Long talking about game 1. The Heat win in Denver. That does work both ways, right? I mean, there's no way to say. You don't know if Denver's been on ice so long that, they come out and they're out of rhythm and it takes them a while to dig in, or that they come out razor sharp because they're just rested and they're ready and been chomping at the bit to get after it. Miami Heat comes in maybe dragging a little bit, has to play in the altitude, and, is coming off it had to take just a gargantuan effort to stave off. This infamy is nothing you wanted to be labeled with, is it, Lubie? I mean, imagine that. When they make those lists in the future, when another team is in a position of being down 3-0 and maybe forces a game 7, you're in there with those stinking hockey teams that lost 3 and spit the bit on 3-0 leads. And, of course, the New York Yankees against the Boston Red Sox, 2004. What was that, 2004? I want to say yes to that. That's a handful of teams, Lubie. 4 in hockey, 1 in baseball, and that's it.
Like hockey, it's one thing. There's a few teams, and so you sort of get thrown into a group. You don't want to be the one. You don't want to be. That was my thing. It's
150 have gone before you. You can't be that team.
No, you don't want to be the one, especially with Boston fans. That was the thing. Is that fan base? Oof, oh my God.
Did you see those maniacs in the stands? That was almost frightening. It really was. Everybody looks like Mickey Ward or Whitey Bulger in Boston. There are only 2 guys that people look like there. Or some, Irish cop, that has been on the beat for 50 years, probably been on the take. Mickey never came around. What he had for me. Right? I mean, one of those things. But no, it's nice to see those guys that's just splintered emotionally.
It was wonderful to see them lose. I'm sorry.
Absolute wreck. Yeah, I have to say, I'm not an anti-Boston guy. I certainly don't have the same, animosity towards the city as, say, the professor. Dare we mention his name in conjunction with Boston? I don't hate all Ben Affleck movies. I watched Air the other night. It wasn't bad.
I don't know if I want to sit through that.
It wasn't bad. I mean, I'll tell you what. If you were a sports fan, right, it was kind of interesting. The whole thing. I mean, is it going to win an Oscar? I wouldn't think so. Although it's got Oscar buzz, Lubie. Who's created this Oscar buzz for? I mean, it was like a straightforward sort of movie. Not a bad. I mean, I'm a Matt Damon fan, even though I know the professor would be appalled by that as
He
well.
likes Damon. He doesn't like Affleck. He's fine with Damon. He's not a problem with Damon. He doesn't. Like
Damon's a very credible actor. Seems like a good guy, doesn't he?
It's Affleck who's.
You would think you would like Affleck. Affleck is a sick degenerate, man. Was Damon also involved in those high-end card games? I mean, we're talking about where guys would lose like $500,000. It was like Wahlberg and The Gambler, only for real. They were in there with who was that guy? He played like was it Superman? Toby something, who sort of is a bit of a maniac.
Toby Maguire, yeah, he was a poker degenerate,
right? Sick poker man. I mean, and they were playing. Obviously, they have the kind of capital where maybe this doesn't mean as much to them, but literally, like guys would lose $1 million in the game. DiCaprio was out there. He was betting like Brazilian models. He was putting them into the middle of the pot there. Here you go. Here's Bar Rafael. In a string bikini, no top. Those had to be some card games, man. If you were going to be a poker player, maybe is that the way to go? High end like that. But no, the movie here wasn't bad. I mean, as a sports fan, it kind of had its interesting components, right? Where they portray what a wreck the Nike basketball shoe division was, and how they didn't give a shit. They were only interested in making running shoes. And then, here's this Sonny Vaccaro, who obviously is a legendary sort of, I don't know, is he an underground figure in basketball history? Did he do some unscrupulous things during his period, as building this basketball legend that he has?
100%. 100%. It ended up riding the ship because he was one
they made him look like a saint, like a genius.
Oh, they did? He was one of the early founders of AAU. So AAU is legitimized now.
Yeah.
So he's gotten more respect, but early AAU was pretty fucking scummy and pretty douchey. Like the stuff
you couldn't help but like this guy, the way he was portrayed in the movie.
He was a scummy dude. Like the early days, the stuff they pulled with high school and college kids.
Yeah, that's how I sort of remember. Yeah.
Very scummy. He was a very smarmy, scummy dude that years later has come back around because we're now legalizing everything that's scummy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, supposedly they said he was like a pioneer in getting athletes paid.
He was.
As if he was just doing this as a good Samaritan. They never mentioned he was paying these guys for years under the table to wear a pair of sneakers.
It ended up being great, the player empowerment, but he didn't do it because he's fucking Mother Teresa.
No, it didn't seem that way.
He did it to save his own ass. It's what he did.
I seem to remember his reputation as being, somewhat under a very dark cloud. Although, I couldn't necessarily cite you all of the reasons, but you really would have thought that this guy was Jesus himself in this movie, the way he was portrayed by Matt Damon. And, solely responsible for the whole Air Jordan thing.
It's why I don't want to sit and watch. I did that. Look, that summer there was no sports. So we all sort of had to watch Jordan's love fest to himself. Right now, there's enough sports.
That was interesting from a sports documentary standpoint. Yeah,
but when you hear people
you can get by though. Naturally, there's going to be a blowjob about Michael Jordan. We know that.
When you hear Scottie Pippen now literally saying he thinks LeBron's better and that Jordan actually sucked until he got there, it sort of really puts a scope on how much of a love fest that was for Jordan.
Oh, no, that was carefully edited, I would imagine, right?
That's my thing.
As soon as Pippen went nuts and went berserk, I mean, right after they, okay, Scotty, that's good. When he said, well, what are you talking about, Michael Jordan? This guy was nothing without me, nothing. Okay, Scotty, thanks. And they only have a very humble Scottie Pippen going, well, you know what, Michael Jordan was... he was just the greatest. I would have been nothing without him. And then they pull back. It's like the Hank Aaron thing with Bob, right? The three like guys in hoods, and
hates Jordan.
Yeah, wearing turbans, telling a guy, "Hey, listen, Scotty, one more outburst like that, and it's over."
That's my thing with this. Is it feels like, again, supposedly they consulted Michael Jordan a lot on it. If you're consulting Michael Jordan a lot, there's only so much, like there may be truth-ish.
It's like the Williams sisters movie, yeah, right? I mean,
Exactly.
you think that they were just these two little courteous girls their entire career growing up? And this guy is just like a maniac, Richard Williams. All of a sudden he comes off like he was, on Father Knows Best.
It was just for the love, and he was just pushing them. When we know down here all the
calm as they could possibly be. Oh, don't worry about those racial slurs they're hurling at you, Serena.
He was like a
Let's
lunatic.
just whip their ass.
He was a raving lunatic.
Come on. It's like the French Prince of Bel-Air becomes the father of the Williams sisters. Unbelievable.
Exactly. Oh my god.
All right, here we are, movie critics. I thought it was worth watching, though, Lubie. It was kind of interesting. I mean, you had to, buy into a little bit of baloney, no question. You would have thought Sonny Vaccaro was the nicest guy with the most insight of anybody you've ever met.
Look, I'm not saying he was the guy he was cast.
And that Phil Knight was kind of a loose, lunatic entrepreneur.
Between Jordan and Kobe, like, I'm not saying he's not better than we thought of him in the early days, because I think they made him look really bad for doing things that people had done for years.
Oh, yeah. Jason Bateman was Jason Bateman, by the way, in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Himself. Yeah.
I like Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
But, like, I also don't know if he's as good as he's being shown now either. Like, the founder, okay. Yeah.
Who wasn't in that movie? Streisand? I mean, everybody was in that fucking movie.
No, they got a good
Amazing.
cast. That's
Yeah,
why I was like, I just hate the whole Jordan thing. Even at the time, I couldn't stand him, and it always.
Did Sean Connery check out, or he would have been in the movie, right? Sean Connery, I think he checked out. No, all right. Donald Sutherland wasn't in the movie playing Popovich. That would have been appropriate. You never really saw what it was that was supposed to be representing Michael Jordan, though. Viola Davis, who's a great actress, was Jordan's mother in the movie. Wow, what a cast, huh? How do you go wrong there? It's a blockbuster. It was like one of those movies like Ocean's 11, right? Where they have virtually everybody. That was anybody in Hollywood at the time, all A-listers.
Yeah.
Fantastic, yeah. All right, but that was it. My review was, it was worth a view, Louis. I mean, if you had nothing to do and there was nothing else on and you tuned into air and it was free, you got your money's worth. I'll put it that way. More than got your money's worth. And, it moved by pretty quickly. Interesting, the wheelings and dealings that were going on at that time. And, I'm not sure how much liberty and license they took with some of the thoughts about whether they wanted to sign Barkley, or I guess the guy that they were laughing at was Mel Turpin, who was, they were going down a list of guys that were drafted, who they could sign to represent Nike sneakers. And they were only willing to make like a minor commitment until all of a sudden this Jordan thing came up, and Vaccaro was obsessed with it. And then Jordan's mother pulls off, the greatest of all. I mean, one of the great business deals of all time, right? Where she says, I want a piece of every stinking shoe those people make in China. She didn't put it that way. Yeah, what's funny? I mean, they were making these shoes for like 10 cents, right?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they still do. It's still like less than $1. And now they're like...
None of that was really, referenced in the movie. They didn't show you the sweatshop in Guam, right? Where Kathy Lee Gifford was in there going, okay, everybody, you're working till midnight. And you'll get 2 hours off, while they were paying them 10 cents a day. How do they just slough over that, Louis?
They always do. What do you mean? It's like LeBron will fight any cause that's not China.
No, man. I mean, often seen eating Chinese food, just
where your bread's buttered, like it's hard to. Nike isn't what they are if they're charging they're getting charged.
Imagine. Charging you $300 for a pair of sneakers they made for 20 cents.
Yeah, I mean,
that's America, my friends.
That is America.
When you tour the Intercoastal on one of those Robin Leach boat tours like I did the other day with Dave B, you're looking around going, yeah, that's how they did it. Cheap labor, my friends.
Yep.
All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. Hialeah Park, they have some great things going on, getting ready for the Belmont Stakes. That is is it a week from this Saturday? Or is it, what is it? Are we still in May? I think so.
We finish off May tomorrow.
June 10th. So, okay. So a week from Saturday.
Yeah. It's not
the Belmont Stakes. And, it's a good time to be there. I don't know what the race is going to look like. I saw Piscataway Racehorse disarmed. He loved that horse in the Kentucky Derby. And the horse ended up fourth, if I'm not mistaken about this. And then was running in a turf race at Belmont the other day. So chances of going in the Belmont Stakes would be 0.0, no? If you were thinking about coming back with this horse. Ran a credible second on the grass. But I'm not sure what the field's going to look like. I guess Forte is supposed to maybe go postward in this one. We'll see. I would imagine anybody would be willing to take a shot. No, it's still quite a distinction to win the Belmont Stakes, especially if you think it's wide open. And Mage, the Kentucky Derby winner, who was third in the Preakness, not going to be part of the field. So that's one quality competitor out. Why not roll the dice, Lubie? Right? So we'll see if they get a bunch of entries for the Belmont Stakes. Anyway, great place to enjoy it. And you kind of get the whole feeling that you're there involved in the Triple Crown when you look around the grounds there at Hialeah Park. And of course, you can entertain yourself in so many different ways any day of the week and any night of the week at Hialeah Park with the casino. Saw another jackpot being paid out, $5,000 in cash. That was fun to watch, right? They had a video of the guy handing the person, 50 sticks. It was fantastic. And that happens all the time. Matter of routine at Hialeah Park. High-paying slot machines. Probably the highest percentages being paid out of anywhere at any casino in South Florida. And that's a plus. Great food and drink all over the place. Always a good vibe in there. A lot of festivities. The Friday night, Saturday night parties out there in the patio bar are absolutely sensational. They do some high-end stuff. You can check out the calendar of events at hialeahpark.com. Catering, always great. You're planning a party, business meeting. Fantastic accommodations for that. And the poker room, of course, is top-notch, very professionally run as well. It is the ultimate casino. Get a player's card, and you'll be rewarded with all kinds of riches and just amenities that you couldn't even conceive of. You know how depressing it is, right? When you run your card through the kiosk there, Lubie, you don't experience this, and you realize you've got nothing.
See, what happened to me yesterday, I have the money in the account, and it said declined. And I was with Shirley. She looked at me. I was like, no, the money's there. I don't know why it was fucking declined.
Oh, your credit card? Oh, that's even worse.
But it had money in it. It was a debit card, and it said declined. And I'm like,
that happens.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm talking about, when you get your rewards card at a casino and you run it through the little thing, the promotions, and see what you got coming. And it's nothing, right? It's like you owe them money. Like, go to the window and give the cashier $100. It's like, what? What are you talking about? If you want to retain your like lowly status, they don't do that to you at Hialeah Park. They want you to have fun out there, and they greatly appreciate your patronage. So if you have a VIP card from any other gaming establishment, bingo. You have that same level of accommodation at beautiful Hialeah Park. It's really a unique program, their rewards program. Great place, great people. I've always loved them, and you will too. The great casino and entertainment complex that is now beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, we'll come back and wrap things up. A lot of fun today so far. We didn't really get into the pucks too much yet, although that's a week away, which is kind of a drag, is it not?
They haven't played in a week, and they don't play again for a week. So
kind of a drag.
And he just pulled the miraculous twice where they gave a game away that you really thought was theirs.
I wanted more games. We got them. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a fuckhead. And they won a game that there's no way they should have won. So that it makes sense that and their series starts in an hour. So.
Yes, but I mean, like we said, it works both ways, right? Ring rust. Sometimes we've seen teams come out and look very, very poor.
Yes.
And disoriented. Now, Denver strikes me as the type of team that is playing with a certain amount of heat, chip on their shoulder. I don't know that the Heat have a chip on their shoulder so much, but
they did.
Denver has been ignored all season. The Heat are coming from nowhere.
Yes.
Does house money run out? That's the question.
Yes.
If you're handed the Mustang had 200 in free play the other day, and she was out of that in seconds at a local casino here. And, I happened to be walking downstairs to get a drink when I saw her at the ATM machine, and I'm saying, wait. No.
It's slots. Like once you're done, you're done. Like
slots, Jesus.
You keep taking money out for slots. That's rough. Like you can turn around with horses. You can turn it around with poker.
One bet on the horses, and you're in control of it. At least you can say, okay, man, I can't handicap my way out of a paper bag. I haven't picked a winner, since Nixon was president. All those nights at Vernon Downs when I was at Syracuse, I was wasting my time. I realized that. The walk of life is, I probably should go to some headphones and music, Lubie, because I'm thinking too much.
You're thinking all the time.
I'm looking back on my life as a complete failure and utter disaster.
No comment.
I'm thinking, was it really that? What's the point?
Well, I don't have that thought. That's not going to help you.
It's ugly, man. I mean, what was the highlight of my life? Going to Bazooka Limon fights at the Olympic Auditorium? I'm not sure. Saw a few of those. They were great, man. When that guy hit below the belt, man, he went for it. I mean, you're talking about a vicious left hook to the balls. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment here. We'll wrap things up. The Panthers and the Las Vegas Knights. The Knights looked sensational last night. Now, if you go against that team, this will not be easy. But nothing has been. So, and yet The Panthers have cruised. I mean, you talk about breezing since that 3-1 deficit to Boston. Unbelievable.
Yeah, like the games have been tough, but they found a way to win them all. Like they haven't been down in a series or even in a tough series.
How wrong will I be on this one? I'm saying Stanley Cup, yes. Larry O'Brien, no.
I'm not saying
Cup, yes. O'Brien, no.
But I would lean Nuggets and I would lean Panthers. I agree. So that's probably horrendous. We both.
You would lean Nuggets. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, I would lean Nuggets in a tough series, and I would lean Panthers.
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea who to pick in that Vegas. I mean, obviously nobody does because the odds are almost dead even. Florida, you get plus 105 right now, at least the line that I saw, and Vegas is a minus 135 favorite.
That's very close.
Which, I mean, that's still, according to favoritism, because you have to lay 135 to win 100, which I don't know that I would do if I like the Knights in the series. Even if I like them, I might have to just watch that one, right?
And I wouldn't touch that series.
Would you bet $1,350, Lubie, to win a dime?
No.
Because almost everybody in the world, I don't know about laying the 7 and a hook last night, but almost everybody in the world, if it was a money line bet, would have had the Boston Celtics. And imagine how, I mean, that's the worst, right? It's one thing you lose a horse race because it only takes like a minute and change, all right? And you realize right away, your horse is out of it. He gets left in the gate there. He's trailing the field all the way around. You're already looking at the next available screen if you're going screen to screen. You'll have a quick chance to get out of it. But to have to suffer through the agony of having like a Celtics money line bet last night, can you imagine?
And
then, they're always going to give you a little bit of a tease. I don't know about always, but usually this will happen where, the Heat aren't great. I mean, it's not like they're such a brilliant team that they're infallible. And so Boston gets within 7 and had many opportunities to cut it to less. I think they had the ball a couple of times where a 3-pointer puts them within 4. Now you're saying, wow, as poorly as they played, they're only down like 4 at halftime.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they were able to score in any of those instances, I would have been fucking losing it. Like literally.
But brick after brick after brick after brick. I mean, it was insane. It really was. I mean, it was like you were paving your driveway. Hey, it looks good, sweetheart. Yeah, just keep working. Bricks everywhere.
Yep. I mean, they every time they would miss it, and every time the Heat would get a basket, and it was like, okay. And
Caleb Martin was really good. I mean, really good in the ball game.
Great. Martin was fantastic. Martin was what you want. It's funny. Tyler Hero in the bubble was great. Ever since the bubble, he's either been hurt or just bad. But Martin in that series was what you thought you'd get from Hero. Because Heroes, remember, the Heat don't have, outside of Butler, a guy that can create his own shot, score on all 3 levels. Martin was that. Martin got to the basket. Martin was hitting mid-range jumpers.
Oh, he was great.
On his own. He was doing it off the dribble.
Some nice shots, yes.
And then whereas Tyler Hero was a sieve on defense, Martin was playing great defense. Martin, even before he got hurt, was making tight.
Oh, so you're saying the return of Hero could potentially hurt the Heat?
No. I think versus the Nuggets, you need all the scoring you can get. And Spoelstra's not going to go from never playing him to starting him. Like, look, Butler has to sit at some point, and those minutes are dreadful. You need whoever you
ease Hero into it a little bit, no?
Yeah,
even though it's a postseason. Yeah.
Look, well, first of all, I don't think he's supposed to not play till game 3. So the Heat will already be into the series by then.
It might be down 2-0 by that point.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to need look, the Nuggets are definitively, when they said about the Celtics, I thought it was a fucking load of garbage. It is true. I don't care what the media's done with them. The Nuggets were the best team in the NBA.
Nuggets overwhelmed the Lakers, and the Lakers, were not without, some kind of firepower.
They just don't do what the Heat and the Celtics did all series, where they'll go away for a quarter.
Well, and they close games well.
They finish.
Yes.
They finish quarters and they finish games. And they don't. They have so many fucking guys. And whereas the Celtics get cocky and talk a lot of garbage, don't let me get one. The Nuggets are the opposite. The Nuggets will be up 3-0 saying, you can't count out LeBron. And it's like, dude, you're going to win the series. They're like, no, you never know with LeBron. Like, the Nuggets are very humble. They're very modest. And
their coach is very solid also, very Spoelstra-esque, maybe even a little more serious than Spoelstra, but, with a pretty good grasp of, what he needs to do and say. And, seems to take things just, very, very calmly. Whatever adversity he faces, he seems to know how to handle it. Mike Malone is his name? Mike Malone?
Yes.
Yeah. He's outspoken also and very forthright with his comments and, so that coaching matchup where there was a big edge, Spoelstra and Mazzulla, that coaching matchup appears to be pretty much of a dead heat, no? Malone and Spoelstra?
I think Spoelstra is the better coach, but Malone, is a guy that has.
He's no slouch. He knows his team too. He really does. He has a good feel for that team.
He's very confident.
Yeah.
He's very much like Spoelstra, where when everyone's talking shit, he's the one guy says, "I don't care what you say. I know my team." Yes,
Yeah.
the Nuggets.
When he dubbed that All-Star game as the worst example of basketball he's ever seen, where everybody else is poo-pooing and, oh, how wonderful the way these stars come out and shine. And you're thinking, I would rather watch a women's college lacrosse skills competition than this bullshit. What did we fail to mention? Indy 500. Who was the cat that won it? He had been
I didn't realize.
0 for 11, man. He won it. I don't know. Is that really such a disgrace? I mean, it's not easy to win the Indy 500. But, the guy seemed very happy. And it was a crazy race, right, where the tire went flying over the stands and hit some lady's car in a parking lot. Did you see that, Lubie? They had a big crash there. And, imagine you're in the stands there and you really don't have anywhere to go to. And his tire is just flying over your head. Mario Andretti won it, according to Scott. Don't know. But, wow, near catastrophe there. And it was avoided. I think the woman, for having her car dented by this tire, how about that? Did it really go over the stands into the parking lot? Flew over the stands at the Indy 500 from off the track and dented some lady's car in a parking lot. They gave her like a lifetime pass and they let her drive a car. I think she's in the pole position for next year's 500. Obviously, they don't want her calling Morgan & Morgan.
Exactly.
Or some personal injury guy. I guess it would be the car insurance. It didn't look like it was damaged that badly, though, the vehicle. And we got the French Open underway. I've been watching some of that. You might see the reflection there in the Danny Williams Klitschko poster. And that's always exciting. Coco Gauff is out there against somebody named Masarova, who I'm not familiar with. And it's even up, one set apiece, with Gauff up a break in the third set. They played 2 out of 3 in the win.
Woke up.
The Marlins, great, yeah. Did they sweep the Halos? They did, right?
Start was great. And then this guy, who is supposedly the next, God rest his soul, Jose Fernandez, Perez, pitched fucking outstanding yesterday. That's 2 straight amazing starts.
Yeah, and the bullpen held on.
Are actually hanging tough.
Soler on fire.
Soler,
Sarni's guy.
Sarni's favorite, the MVP favorite.
You would think, the Mick had nothing on this guy.
The Marlins literally, the Marlins are only 4 games back of the Braves.
4 games back of the Braves. I noticed that this morning. I almost fell out of my chair. It was like, holy Kim Eng, man. Did we owe this woman an apology? How are they 4 games out of first place with the Braves? Red hot. I was watching a little Sunday night baseball the other night. I happened to turn on ESPN, and I'm watching the first inning. I said, well, let me take a look at this Braves lineup here, see what they got.
Yeah, it's fucking
And,
ridiculous.
Acuna had 2 hits in the first inning and knocked in like 6 runs. This guy Olsen, who does not have a high batting average, but has a lot of power,
He's legit.
batting second, and he cranks a couple out of the park in this game. Riley, had a home run. They had back-to-back homers, and they absolutely destroyed. I think it was the Phillies they were playing, and they looked really, really good. And they were cashing in. I mean, it's great to be able to score, is it not, Lubie?
Yes.
That's the thing. The Rays have like a plus 120 run differential, even though they've come back to the pack a little bit and are only 4 games ahead of the Orioles. But the Braves being only 4 games ahead of the Marlins is maybe the shocker of the season, is it not?
Yep.
To this point, now the Braves surged, and Acuna had been hurt last year, and then they surged and actually played very well after that. But this year, I mean, got off to a good start. I can't imagine. It's hard to picture the Marlins staying in the race, and yet they're doing it, Lubie.
Look, Luzardo, outside of 1 start, has been fantastic. Perez, through 2 starts, has been unhittable. Cabrera now, I think 2 of his last 3 or 4 starts has been strong.
Alcantara goes today.
Alcantara in his last start was really good and got a win. I mean, if you can have pitching like that, and now you have Soler, who's at least that's the thing. Soler doesn't have to be the average guy. The problem is no one was the average guy.
No, and they need power. There's no question.
Now you have a rise to be your get on base, and if he ever comes back, that's what
he could hit 230 if he hits 40 home runs.
You just needed someone for power. If Soler can Soler is what, 17 home runs, 16 home runs. Like if you can have him,
I think he has
power,
16 or 15.
And Cooper's woken up and he's hitting for power a little bit. If you can have that, then it's okay that Soler doesn't hit for average because they're pitching and they're both
I would agree with that.
Strong. Like it's just you can't have no home runs. Like you need someone to.
No, and you have to get key hits. Obviously, I mean that was what the Braves were doing last night. They turned what could have easily just been a 3-run inning even with 2 home runs into a 7-run inning.
Solaire's tied for second in Major League Baseball.
17?
17.
Woo! Holy Jim Sarney, man. We got to wake up here.
You know, like
17, and we're not even, what do we got? 28, 26? What is that? 54 games?
Yeah.
So you're a third of the way through the season. Wow, he could hit 50 at this pace. And that's, including games at Lone Shark Park where it's almost impossible to hit home runs. Although if you are going to hit them, I guess left field is the place, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you want to be a dead pull hitter there, and that's probably your only chance. And maybe once in a while, if you're Giancarlo Stanton and you can hit one through the Budweiser Terrace, that's a whole nother thing. So Larry's got some bombs, too. I mean, he's been hitting, shots that go like 430 and, long range. So, he was plugged in that series against the Angels. That's great. All right, so we have a lot of good things working, Lubie. 2 championships, 1 championships, no championships. What do you say, my friend? You're saying 1. We bring back 1.
I think 1. I lean Panthers over Heat. But again...
Dueling Cinderella stories, man.
Look,
dueling.
If you guys, I don't expect for Martin to do this and the tertiary guys to do exactly this. But if they can be a factor the way they are and you can get anything from Bam and Butler, because that's the problem is like, yeah, they're hurt. So shouldn't this continue? But something in me tells me that can't be true. At some point, you have to see Butler be more. And Bam, Bam doesn't have to score 30, but he can't score 10. Like, you got to get 18 to 20. Like, he's got it. And I don't see why he can't. That's the Bam-Butler mismatch for Nuggets are just as big as the Murray-Jokic. Yeah, Jokic is a big dude. He's also slow as fuck. Like, why can't
I don't know. Is he any kind of defender? I would think not.
No, Jokic is a good. No, he's a good defender.
Good,
but
yeah.
He's slow. So when he plays a fast,
I mean, Bam Adebayo has all the athletic, skills over this guy in terms of just pure athleticism. Should be able to score. Yeah.
You should be able to take him away. Again, he's very good at doing what Jokic does, where he's at the top of the key running the offense.
Right.
If you do that, you now take Jokic out of the middle and have a super undersized Aaron Gordon playing down low. So to me, there are mismatches to be had for the Caleb Martin. Michael Porter Jr. is a good player.
Why do you think they're going to lose then if they have all these edges?
Because Jokic is the best player in the game, and where Bam and Butler ebb and flow. Jokic's bad game was 25, fucking 14, and 12.
I think Jamal Murray too needs to be. Murray, that guy's been terrific.
It's scary.
I watched a lot of that Lakers series against Denver.
Very scary.
Murray was great.
He really
was.
And that's the thing is the Heat roll guys.
Porter can hit threes. Michael Porter.
The Nuggets are the better team, but it's not like it's this overwhelming. Like the odds are a little weird.
Tavius Caldwell Pope is a sharpshooter when called upon, but doesn't go out of his way to just chuck up threes.
No, the Nuggets play smarter. They don't ebb and flow like the Heat can.
Yeah.
And their best player
put up points.
Uber consistent, whereas Butler hasn't been. Butler has been a far cry from himself.
Got to see one, right? I mean, especially in that Panther Vegas series, you really have to see one. And I don't even know if that's going to establish any level of certainty as to who's going to win the series.
I hope this time off doesn't fuck Bobrovsky. That's the big.
Yeah, he may realize that he's not that good.
Time off. Yeah. For a goalie.
Hopefully they've had him inside, the office of some shrink, telling him all along, "You can do it, Sergey. You can do it. This is the real you, the playoff you." All right, we got to run. We'll have Mike Mayo's Lunchbox coming up on South Florida Live, 12 o'clock today. Should be a lot of fun. You guys have a lot of food to talk about with all of the stuff that happened. And Mayo was all over the place. He was at that festival.
Yes. I also went to Temple Street Eatery.
Temple Street Eatery, yeah. That was great. Oh, you went down there? How was it?
Shirley, I and my father-in-law went. And I didn't realize they had a happy hour even on Sunday. The drink special.
Oh, nice.
The food prices were great. It was fantastic. Good, full freight.
They do a sangria there? They have a sangria?
They do drinks with wine. So they do some things that are sangria-like. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I could go for that.
It was really good.
Yeah, that's going to be my new drink of the summer. Red wine sangria, believe it or not.
Nice.
Prefer it over white, which is rare. Because my theory the other way there. Even the finest of wines, you could lay a bottle of Lafite Rothschild, 19 whatever. And if it was red wine, I would say, I'll pass on that. Could you give me a Bud Light, please?
Red wine's great. I love red wine.
All right, we're going to see you later on, 12 o'clock today. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Our thanks to Grant Long, Scoop Skolnick for joining us here on the show. We'll do it again tomorrow at 7 o'clock. We'll have Defo on 5, also up on 5 Reason Sports Network. And who knows, maybe even a Believe podcast coming your way soon. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time
we won, Lubie. Now it's we. Those parades came out of nowhere. Where are these people on the streets? Where were they coming from? Heat watch parties? Well, what the hell was that? That was amazing. All right, it's 9:04.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.